Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Welcome to the second lab of how to construct removable orthodontic appliance. This is a lab work for the year 4 students at the Mosul Dental School. In previous lab, we showed you the basic instruments and materials that we used and we are going to use throughout the year. And also we construct some of the most common loops and coils that we are going to use in various springs. Today we are starting with the first spring, which is called simple cantilever spring or palatal finger spring. This is one of the simplest and most common spring to be used with removable orthodontic appliance. What we are going to need is the plier, which is called Adam's plier. This one, Adam's plier, comes in two shapes. One of them is that the two beaks are square in cross section, and the other one, sometimes called angle plier or bird beak plier. It has one rectangular and one rounded cross-section beak. Okay, so we need this one, the cutter, and we are going to need the model of the patient. In this case, we are using the standard model, and the wire that we are going to use, which is 0.5 stainless steel wire, and we'll need marker and a pencil, a ruler of course. Okay, so the first step in constructing the simple cantilever spring is to draw the design of the spring on the model, and that will be the procedure, the first step of constructing any spring. Let's say that we are trying to move the central incisor toward the midline. Okay. So the simple cantilever spring or the palatal finger spring will extend from just next to the small loop to engage the distal margin of the tooth, and it will extend palatally and will go down on the palate. And here we measure about 15 millimeter from the incisor edge, and then we start to make a loop. The loop should be in the direction away from the direction of desired tooth movement, and the loop should be 3 to 4 millimeters in diameter, and then the wire continues for about 4 millimeters, and then this will be the point of entry into the acrylic. And then we'll start to do a zigzag movement, zigzag bends. Make sure that the zigzag does not cross the midline of the palate, just to allow space for other springs to be used. Okay, so that's roughly how the spring should look like after drawing on the model. So we'll have a piece of wire, let's say about 5 centimeters, or a bit more, let's say 5. Okay. And that's it for the wire. And the ruler. Now the first step is, as we learned from the last lab, is to straighten the wire. Okay. So nearly straight. Okay. First, we'll make a small, very small loop, as small as possible. And let's say we'll grasp the wire from the end of the plier, at the very end, and start making a small loop. Okay. Then, if you can even squeeze it more, and then at the other end of the plier, you just squeeze the loop. Okay. Just to make it as small as possible. Okay. Make sure that the wire is straight again. And then this small loop that we made, should be, we actually made this loop just to prevent injury to the lip of the patient. But we can also utilize it to improve the engagement of the wire to the distal end of the distal side of the tooth, and you can do this. Okay. So that's a good engagement to the distal side of the tooth, and the spring will continue down to the palate. Okay. You can even do it more, 90 degrees maybe. It depends on the amount you need. And from this point, we measure 15 millimeters. Okay. And put mark on 15 millimeters. Okay. And here from the mark, you just grasp the wire from the mark point, and make sure that, okay, so make sure that you're grasping the wire this way. So you see the round beak, the one that you're making the loop, the main loop of the spring. Make sure that this small bend is pointing the other way, opposite to the round beak. Okay, and then you start making the loop. Right. At this point, always remember to make the active arm below the coil. Okay, so we go above here. Okay. And continue. Okay, now just check again. Make sure that the loop is tight and the wire enter and exit 180 degrees. Okay. Okay, make sure that the two sides of the loop are packed together. And then we place it again on the cast and check the position of the loop and the position of the spring. Okay. Now you can see that the spring, the palate is curved and the spring is straight. So we will start to the free end, or the tagged end of the spring so as to enable us to adapt the spring to the model. Okay. Then, as we said, about 4 millimeters down from the loop, we put a mark, again according to the drawing on the model. Put that mark. This will be the point of entry to the acrylic. Now, we start to make the zigzag, the retentive tag of the spring, and just remember that the point of entry to the acrylic is a weak point of the spring. So if the spring kept moving right and left at this point, this will be a weak point, the point of entry to the acrylic. And also, if we bend the wire from here, it will be also a weak point. So double weakness to single point is very critical. So what we do is that we shift the start of the zigzag about 2 millimeters down from the point of entry to the acrylic, and then we start doing the 45-degree bend first, then turn the player back and use 90-degree bend, another bend, zigzag, okay, and another zigzag. 3 or 4, that will be enough. Okay. Okay. Now we put it again. Press it on the model and check the measurements. Okay. Everything's fine. Now we start the adaptation of the spring. Cut the excess wire. Start doing the curve of the pallet. Okay. Now, as you can see, the tag is not crossing the midline, but so close. So we have the opportunity to change that. So we just bend a little bit this side, and just make sure that the spring is adapted well to the drawing that you have already made. Sometimes you need to have a little curve the spring, so better engagement. Now you can see the zigzag is not parallel to the pallet, so although this will be covered by the acrylic, and it will be of benefit to have it slightly away from the stone of the model, so the acrylic can go all around the tag, the zigzag, but put it as close as possible. Okay, so that's our almost finished spring, and you try to adapt the zigzag as much as possible to be slightly away from the stone model. Okay, I think that's a good adaptation, and that will be the end result of the finger spring. As a quick review of the spring, it's called the simple cantilever spring, and I think the shape of the spring explains the name. Or it's also called the finger spring, and also from the shape of the spring. You start from the tooth end, a small loop to prevent injury to soft tissue and also to help engaging the distal end of the tooth. This is because we want to move this tooth, theoretically, to move it mesially or toward the midline. Okay, now the active arm, parts of the spring is the active arm, the loop, and the retentive tag. Okay, the foot and the retentive tag. Okay, arm, loop, foot, and retentive tag. The distance from the tip of from the end of the spring to the loop is roughly 15 millimeters. That's on the standard model. It could be different on the normal patient model, but it's better to keep it as long as possible. The loop size is 3 to 5. It's say 3 to 5 or 3 to 4 millimeters, and then 4 millimeters to the end point of entry into the acrylic. A little bit further is the start of the zigzag bends, and the retentive tag should have 3 or 4 bends just to keep the spring retained into the acrylic. Okay, and it's as simple as that. That's the simplest form of orthodontic removal appliance springs. Thanks very much.